Good evening, everyone. We're going to let everyone file in. It takes a few minutes in a webinar format for everyone to join us. So we'll wait just a moment before officially beginning. Counter's still ticking up, so we'll wait just another moment. All right. Well, we're going to begin. I want to say hello to everyone. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you may be. My name is Heather Daly, and I am the Dean of Admission and Financial Aid here at St. Andrews. And it is a real pleasure to be able to welcome you all this evening. I want to let you know that this webinar is being recorded so that we will have the opportunity to share it with individuals who are not able to attend in this live session with us this evening. But I'm thrilled to be able to be with you this evening with our current head of school, Tad Roach, and our head-elect, Joy McGrath. I just want to say a few moments on behalf of the entire admission team, because I can say with great enthusiasm how excited we all are at the prospect of you joining us at St. Andrews next year. We had a record number of applications to St. Andrews this year. And in this highly unusual year, I think it's safe to say that we really didn't know what to expect over the course of this application season as we were preparing to work with prospective families in a virtual setting, to conduct all of our interviews via Skype. But it's been a thrill and a pleasure to be able to get to know all of you. And one thing that all of us on the admission team knew as we were reading applications was that we had an exceptional group of young people who were interested in St. Andrews this year. And that made our deliberations very exciting. It also made them very, very difficult. And so I just want to say to all of you, congratulations, because it is an incredible accomplishment that you all have been able to garner at this moment in time. We are thrilled to be able to welcome you as the newest members of the St. Andrews community. And once again, we hope that you will be with us in the fall. This evening is the first in our series of virtual events that we are doing for accepted students and families. There's a whole slate of activities, and I hope that you all have had the opportunity to see the virtual webpage that we've created called Front Lawn Found, that has the sort of 30 days of St. Andrews opportunities outlined. There are a number of different virtual events. We'll be sending a list of those to you tomorrow morning, including this Thursday evening's game night for accepted students, which will be a great opportunity for you to meet some current St. Andreans, as well as some of your prospective classmates. So without further ado, I'd love to be able to introduce two people who have approximately 70 years of cumulative experience here at St. Andrews. I think that says a great deal. They both love and care deeply about this place. I'm excited for you to have some time to spend with each of them this evening. They're going to have the opportunity to speak with you, and then we will have a chance to answer any questions that you may have either in the chat or the Q&A features. So without further ado, I'm going to turn this over to our head of school, Tad Roach.
Excellent. Thanks, Heather.
You're welcome.
So it's great to be with you. We obviously wish you were here on a beautiful long spring day at St. Andrews, but we are really excited. This is a great moment for me and for Joy. It's our first chance to be together as head retiring and head-elect, and to tell you about our passion and commitment to St. Andrews. I've been very lucky to have worked at St. Andrews for 42 years. This is my 24th year as head of school. So you can imagine how inspired I was when the Board of Trustees made this brilliant decision to have Joy McGrath be our head-elect. This is a brilliant leader, both in secondary schools and in the world of university education. And she's also a former student of mine and a trusted and brilliant colleague. She actually helped me build the school that we celebrate today. And she's going to take the school to new heights during her era. And she will have my full support all the way through what is going to be just an extraordinary tenure at St. Andrews. We both believe St. Andrews is a really extraordinary school. We hope this hour is going to give you a sense of why this school is so distinctive, why it's been so powerful, why it's so transformational for students and for faculty alike, why teaching here for me and being with St. Andrews students is the greatest experience I could ever possibly imagine having. I was outside today in 40-degree temperatures teaching Tolstoy. My sophomores were cold at the beginning, but by the time we got to the middle of the class, they were doing outstanding things. So we hope this time together gives you a sense that this place is very, very different. It's distinctive. It will change your child's life. It will change you, students. It will change your lives in the ways that you've been describing in your beautiful applications that we've been enjoying reading. So I'm here to provide historical perspective. Joy's here to provide the vision of this exciting future and this exciting moment for St. Andrews. So I'm going to turn this over to Joy, and then we look forward to your questions in a few minutes.
Thank you, Tad, and thank you, Heather. First of all, congratulations to all of the admitted students who are here this evening, or whatever the time is where you are. You're just incredible. I have loved learning about you from reading your applications, and I can't wait to meet you. And congratulations to all of your family members who are here too. I know they're so proud of you, and deservedly so. It's such an honor, as Tad said, to be able to speak to you for a moment today. And I really look forward to hearing and answering your questions along with Tad and Heather at the end of the session. So I'm a new head of school, and you might be wondering what the future holds for St. Andrews. Mr. Roach has been a transformational and exemplary head of school, and it's been my honor to learn from him since 1991, when, as he said, he was my sixth form English teacher. I also worked for him at St. Andrews for nearly 8 years before I went on to work at Yale. He's been just an incredible mentor and friend to me for nearly 30 years. So this transition will be one of continuity as I embrace St. Andrews DNA, just as Tad has done. And make no mistake, St. Andrews is a school that has DNA. We were founded with a distinct purpose, a purpose that we have followed and been passionate about over the past 90 years. That purpose has proven to be both a capacious and a prescient one, and it served us well from the earliest days of the school during the Great Depression to this day, which carries with it no less serious challenges. Our founders, Mr. DuPont and Bishop Cook, were very wise men who saw the need to create a school of optimism and a school of excellence, one that could educate and serve young people as our country evolved, and even transition to serve a global community in need of light and leadership today. So that tripartite purpose was to be a school of a definitely Christian character, providing a rigorous education consistent with highest standards, and open to all regardless of means. So I want to take each of these three purposes in turn. First, we're an Episcopal school, and as such, it's from the teachings of Christ that we understand our core values. We love each other, we listen to each other, we practice radical empathy, we try to understand what is right and do what is right. We live joyfully and we grow as human beings. We always consider the needs of others more highly than our own, and we engage in the rigors of our classes, our teams, our performances in order to both strengthen ourselves and to lift up our community. Second, we are a school of authentic and rigorous intellectual engagement in the classroom, and crucially beyond the classroom. We believe that you are intellectually capable, and we will challenge you to investigate, understand, debate, create, perform, and reason, all at the highest level. We all love to learn here at St. Andrews, and the process of growing and understanding brings us great joy and fulfillment. And finally, we are a school open to all regardless of means since our founding. This means that we welcome students from every socioeconomic background and make it possible for all of us to belong at St. Andrews. We believe that the diversity of our school is essential to a great education. Every voice, every point of view is required for us to learn and live well. And this openness to all is a defining feature of St. Andrew's DNA. And along with our grounding in the Episcopal faith, it defines a school where every one of us belongs and thrives. In fact, my St. Andrew's story begins right there. I grew up about 20 minutes away from the school and had never heard of it. I had attended public school my whole life, and by 10th grade, I had exhausted most of the course offerings in my small town school district. My orthodontist, of all things, learned of my situation and told me his son attended St. Andrews, and that if I could gain admission, I would receive a scholarship equal to my need. I could hardly believe this was true, but I was forced to seriously investigate the option when he informed me he would not remove my braces until I went on a tour. Of course, you know the rest of the story. I received a generous scholarship. Otherwise, my family never would have been able to afford St. Andrews or any private school. In my 2 years here, I encountered for the first time teachers like Mr. Roach and many others who saw something in me, who believed in me and knew that I could do more, certainly much more than I believed myself capable of. And I found friends here who are still my best friends. My preparation for St. Andrews was very poor, and these friends and my teachers believed in me, loved me, and encouraged me from my very first moments on campus. And we also had so much fun. To this day, at reunions and alumni events, I still laugh the hardest, and if I'm honest, get the most sentimental with my St. Andrews friends. And when we see each other now, nearly 25 years later, it's like only a few moments have passed since the last time we saw each other. From this community, I learned so much. Truly, I came to St. Andrews as one person, and I left 2 years later as another person. I knew so much more about myself and what I was capable of, about how to find and build an optimistic community of joyful purpose wherever I was, about how to be courageous, pursue excellence, seek happiness, and keep faith. It was through this experience at St. Andrews that I found that I would always be an educator and share with young people the same belief and power that my mentors and friends at St. Andrews shared with me. And in the end, that's why I'm here speaking to you today. St. Andrews is the place in the world that I most strongly believe in. It is a place of optimism, joy, and excellence. And even though my time as head of school hasn't begun yet, I already agree with Mr. Roach's assessment that leading St. Andrews is the best job in the world. So St. Andrews is a school that will change you. You will not be the same person when you leave as you were when you arrived. Of course, the fundamental values and traits that you have developed over the years will remain, and they will shine even brighter at St. Andrews. But what is your mission? If you choose St. Andrews, you will discover so much about your mission in life and about who you were meant to be. Your mission may be to design a landing craft that can return to Earth from Mars. It may be to become a singer-songwriter or to start a new business that will meet the needs of customers. It may be to become an architect, a farmer, or a teacher. Whatever your mission is, you will be prepared to live it out with meaning and with purpose. I can promise you that if you are ready to discover more of yourself through debate and learning, finding and lifting up your distinct voice, engaging in serious consideration and lighthearted and joyful friendship, then we are ready to coach you, mentor you, believe in you, and encourage you. I hope you will join us. And thank you so much for being here with us. And Mr. Roach and Heather and I look forward to answering your questions.
Thank you so much, Joy and Tad. So I want to encourage people to take the opportunity to submit questions either via the chat function or via the Q&A button that are at the bottom of your screens. I did see that someone had just raised a hand. I'm not sure if that was intentional or not, but certainly, Sienna, if that was the case, please feel free to type those queries into the chat or Q&A function. We do have one question, and so I'm more than happy to bring that up. And I think obviously in light of all that we are navigating throughout the course of our present, as well as this past year, I think we can speak certainly to some of this, as well as perhaps to what it might look like in the future. But the first, the first question is if we have a sense of our COVID plan for next year. I just giggled at the next question, so I'm gonna put that to you next, Joy. So I don't know if Mr. Roach, you'd like to talk a little bit about what protocols and safety have looked like thus far, and then perhaps we can talk a little bit about perhaps what we might anticipate in a world that obviously is changing very quickly along.
Absolutely, absolutely. I know that Joy will have some great insights on what's to come. For St. Andrews, as Joy pointed out, the whole community is deeply embedded in what we call a public good. So we saw the pandemic from a variety of different angles. We definitely saw how the pandemic itself was going to affect our community, but we also were very, very aware that what the pandemic was doing was exposing some very significant fault lines in both America and in the global world. And we've been talking a lot at St. Andrews, and I know this is going to happen under Joy's leadership, but we've been talking a lot about how your generation, those of you on this with us, the young students on the screen tonight, this is going to be your generation's great opportunity to come out of this pandemic and to rebuild, and to have the opportunity to fix many of the issues that became so glaringly clear to all of us as the pandemic unfolded. What we've done at St. Andrews is obviously we've deeply committed to two things. The in-person learning and the in-person community is fundamental to us. We're a full school today, and we were a full school in the fall, and we are working very, very hard to stay healthy. We're masking, we're physically distancing. All of you know those protocols and know that those are really, really important for all communities, but especially for communities that are congregate settings. And we also have made it really possible for our international students or for students who are not able to be here because of health reasons to have the same access to high quality education and learning that Joy was describing earlier. So we've worked really, really hard on hybrid models. We've worked really hard on virtual models. We have an extraordinary faculty who are brilliant in their disciplines, but also incredibly skilled and resilient and adaptable and flexible in the world that we found ourselves in over the last years. We're really optimistic about the movement of vaccines. We're really optimistic about the progress that is being made, certainly in this country. And we're hopeful that you, this class on the webinar tonight, who have had 2 years of your careers in school have been disrupted, we hope you're moving into a period of time where those disruptions will be far less than what you've gone through. Throughout this entire process, one of the people that I called right away was Joy. I knew that she was in charge of a massive COVID programming at Yale, and so I knew that if I needed someone to tell me exactly what the research was, exactly what to do, she would have incredible advice for me. So she helped guide me through the many questions that I was dealing with over the summer, and I know her wisdom and her comprehension of COVID in schools, colleges, universities is really second to none. So I'll just turn this question over to a much better narrator.
Thank you, Tad. That was spot on. And I think we are all feeling really optimistic about the fall. We're closely following vaccine authorization for 16 and under. We're closely following vaccination around the country, and as we start reaching the vaccine program, start reaching younger and younger people. We'll continue for the fall, I think, to be optimistic and believe that we'll be in person and much more back to normal. We will continue to prioritize the health and safety of everyone in the St. Andrews community. It's our absolute top priority, of course, and we'll also continue to follow the science and the best scientific advice that's available, as well as public health advice. And I think, we'll see what the fall brings. There will, certainly be bumps along the way, but I think the great thing is that Tad and the team at St. Andrews have done an incredible job managing this so far, and we've learned a lot. And as Tad said, there have been so many innovations that, there's a lot of talk right now about what are the things that we found out that we'll keep. And and I think we've also all had a really serious conversation with ourselves and our institutions about what are the things that really matter and that are totally crucial to us that we'll never give up, whether there's a pandemic or any other kind of disruption. And I expect all those conversations to continue as well.
Thank you. The next question we had, I think, was two-parted. The first was in reference to the second part, maybe a little bit more fun or a little more jovial. So the first question, Joy, for you is, what happened with your orthodontist? Clearly we see that you don't have braces, so that's thrilling. The second question to that actually is talking a little bit about your leadership and your thoughts about. I think the question is what will change and what will remain, and just sort of thinking about this introductory time as you step into this new role.
Yeah, thank you. It's a great question. So yes, my orthodontist removed my braces actually before I returned to St. Andrews. So before I enrolled at St. Andrews. So I came to school with a retainer and no longer with braces, which was a huge relief, as you can imagine, to get them off before going to a new school. That would have been too much. But in terms of the future of St. Andrews, I think, we are moving from strength to strength. There is so much in the incredible community and the strong school that Tad and my colleagues at St. Andrews have built. I think, the school's financial aid program and its accessibility, and along with that, the efforts to make sure that we are making the most of all of that diversity that we are bringing to the campus, that we are all having those important, crucial discussions, and that we are learning from each other. Belonging and inclusion efforts all will continue to be very, very important. The school has made some really wonderful investments over the last few years in STEM education, including with the new science and mathematics teaching facility in Amos Hall. And I think that work has been incredibly important. And I'm really excited to continue that investment, which I think is really, really important for educating leaders and servants for our future in society. It's really important for our students to be scientifically literate and numerate and able to understand and work with data. And, the last thing I'll mention is that St. Andrews has a wonderful campus of 2,200 acres of what I like to call my native habitat. I grew up 20 minutes away and spent most of my childhood outdoors. And I am really excited to work with the faculty and students on opportunities to bring more of the outdoors and the campus and sustainability into our classrooms and into our co-curriculum and our residential life. I think there is, we do so much already, and I think there's an opportunity for even greater engagement with the natural world. So those are just some things off the top of my head.
Great. Thank you so much. We have a question there are a few things. One is actually in relation to our calendar and thinking about when new families may be arriving. One of the things that actually went in the mail to all families and via email to our families who are our domestic families were mailed some information today regarding academics, co-curriculars, our school calendar for the upcoming year. And this was mailed to our families coming to families coming internationally this afternoon. But the question had to do with next year's calendar and what that might look like. One of those actually was a question about when new families might expect to arrive. At this current time, we expect that will be around the timeframe of September 5th. Obviously, we're going to be keeping a close eye on that to sort of see how things move forward. But there is a question about if, in fact, things continue to abate with COVID, how often parents can expect to visit.
Yeah, I think that's really going to depend on what the public health advice is at the time, and also our understanding of how this is a seasonal virus, just like most coronaviruses. This is a seasonal virus, and some experts are anticipating a bit of an uptick, kind of in the November, December timeframe. We'll see if that comes about. We do have the ability to do rapid testing on campus, which we will preserve throughout next year and continue to use to, make sure that we're monitoring the campus. I think it's too early to say what the visitation policies will be for outsiders. I think our main concern will be trying to conduct in-person, especially classes and academic engagements, and have the student experience be as normal as possible on campus.
Thank you. There was a couple of questions that I've seen coming from students related to how we work as a school to help new students become comfortable here at St. Andrews in terms of questions around potentially homesickness, thinking about residential life and allowing us to help them become more comfortable in their new home.
Yeah, so I think that's something that is so important to this whole community. It's one of the things that I'm really proud of about St. Andrews. This is really a kind school. It's a kind school, not in the rhetoric of the catalog or, that opening day and closing day where everyone appears to be so kind and nice and accepting. This is really a school that works really hard to welcome everyone, visitors, and especially those who are new to the community. And there is a tradition at St. Andrews that we work really hard to achieve, and that is that the oldest students at the school take care of the youngest students. They really take care of you. They make sure you're comfortable. They make sure you know where you're going. They make sure that it's absolutely fine to make mistakes. And they remember when they were feeling a little lonely and a little insecure and a little anxious, and they bring you in and give you voice from the very first day that you're at the school. And this is powerful. It's seniors living on your dorm and really taking time, investing the time that you need during the time of transition that is inevitable at a boarding school. And I would also say that if the seniors embody this culture of kindness in a really profoundly different way than what exists in most boarding schools, I would also say that the St. Andrews faculty work harder with teaching, advising, mentoring, coaching, and dorm planning than any faculty in the country. I mean, they're just so deeply committed to this. So we're there for you as advisors, as classroom teachers, at family style meals, in the dorm, at chapel, in sports, where you are surrounded by adults who are inspiring, thoughtful, and mostly really empathetic and generous. And they know when you're having a great day and they know when you're having a difficult day. So I think a lot of you wrote on this in your essays, and you picked up on this in a year where it was literally impossible for you actually to feel that at St. Andrews, but it clearly came through in some of the webinars where you met some of our students. And yeah, the students are deeply invested. You've heard this, I know, from our admissions, but I would just affirm this. St. Andrews students are firmly invested in the kind of school this is. They have a responsibility for the culture. The culture doesn't actually come from the adult world all the way down. It actually comes from a consensus on the part of students and faculty about what the school is all about. And you'll feel that the first day that you step forth on the campus and the first day that you spend in one of the dorms. And you will be honored and welcomed and loved in a really, really powerful way.
Thank you. We have a question again that's echoed in a couple of different ways, but one of our students had reached out in the chat and again echoed in our Q&A from Seneca. How is St. Andrews' commitment to Christian values expressed in the life of the school? And how do you engage students who are not religious and perhaps even atheists?
Yeah, great question. So, I'll give you my quick answer and then we'll have Joy follow up. For me, it was very, very simple. I was very, very interested in how in the 21st century an Episcopal school could become a school that was radically accepting and radically engaging the spiritual life of all the students. So the idea of the 21st century Episcopal school, as St. Andrews has defined it, is really, it's defined as how do we actually create a community with the qualities we've been talking about tonight, these qualities of generosity, selflessness, sacrifice, and love. And what does that actually look like in a high school campus? And one of the things that we work really hard on in the chapel and in the religious studies program of the school is to recognize and to celebrate the great diversity of religions that exist both within our community, in our country, and in our world. And we fight very hard at St. Andrews against intolerance of all kinds. And certainly one of the basic tenets of the school is to fight against any elements of religious intolerance that may be existing in our country or in the world, and make sure that St. Andrews is a place that exposes that intolerance for what it is. So, for me, being an Episcopal school has only led me to ask one question as a head of school, which is, how do people treat one another in this supposedly Episcopal school? And if we are treating one another with deep respect, if we're honoring the diversity of all of our students, all of their faith traditions or no faith traditions, then I think we're fulfilling the calling of the school in that particular way.
Thanks, Tad. I think that's exactly right. And I would just say that you're going to high school to develop your intellect and to experience personal development and growth, and spiritual development and growth is incredibly important in your life. And so we are an Episcopal school, and we are a Christian school, but by no means does Christianity or the Episcopal tradition have a corner on the market of the values and behaviors and practices that Tad and I have been describing. Those exist in so many faith traditions, and we embrace those. And and there are, of course, people who you asked specifically about atheists, and there are plenty of atheist and agnostic students and faculty in the community. But I think we all benefit by our community's commitment to seek spiritual growth and to seek personal growth. And just this desire we all share to become better people whose lives are animated by these values of love and empathy and generosity and courage. And that's the most important part.
Thank you so much. We have a couple of questions that speak to how St. Andrews differs from other schools, the qualities and characteristics that make us unique from other boarding schools, either within the Northeast or just generally, but just getting a sense of what is singular about St. Andrews.
Okay, I'll give you 4 quick ones, and then I'm going to turn it over to Joy. We are the only private school in the country that was founded with the express purpose of financial aid and to widen the democratic experiment to all socioeconomic groups in the country. And that vision of 1929 that Joy spoke about earlier has propelled us to imagine what a 21st century school of diversity would look like, and what a school with a audacious financial aid program could actually create. So create a boarding school that actually looks like what America is trying to become in the 21st century. Try to create a boarding school that is focused on a public good rather than becoming a private academy worried about only individualistic things. So number 1 is who comes here. Number 2 is, why do people come to St. Andrews? So people come to St. Andrews literally to have a transformational educational experience and to be able to dream bigger dreams about how they're going to contribute to this country and the world. It is not a prep school designed for your individualistic appetite, needs, or desires. It's actually going to be a place that's going to challenge you. It's going to be a place that's going to help you grow and develop. And ultimately, it's going to be a place that's connecting you to large movements going on in the world. Joy talked about the most important movement. One of the most important movements going on in the 21st century is the environmental stewardship movement, right? So you will begin to be a part of a variety of different powerful movements that are going to move you from being a student in a private school to being a student in our democracy. The other thing I would say that's been distinctive, and I'm really so proud of it, is that a lot of schools have decided that they can be either highly academic and have a really horrible culture, or have a really wonderful culture and not be very academic at all. And what St. Andrews has basically said is that the 2 goals, the goals of being a school of intelligence and discernment and hard work and creativity and problem solving and writing and reading, a school like that actually creates a culture of humanity, generosity, and justice. So we emerge from a tradition of being a small liberal arts high school. You know, my 24 years was based on trying to figure out what a secondary school like St. Andrews could do to become like some of the great small liberal arts colleges on the West Coast, on the East Coast, in the South, and in the North. And so what we tried to do is to create an academy of learning that was sensational in terms of what 14 to 18-year-olds can experience during the course of their lives. And I think that has set us completely apart from the other schools that we've been in competition with for the last 25 years, because their trajectory has been very, very different.
Yeah, thank you, Tad. I'll echo that and just say St. Andrews is a really special place. It is a different kind of place. You feel that the moment you're on campus, and I know many, if not most of you, haven't actually been able to be on campus. And so, but you will feel that when you visit us. And it's partly our smallness and the fact that we're all boarding. All of these elements of the school culture that Tad's alluding to are possible to cultivate because we are so small and we really see each other. We know each other. We understand each other. The head of school knows every single student, every parent, every family. And we just really take the trouble to get to know you and to get to know where you're from and where you're going and understand that. And I think some of what Tad said about the sense of purpose of the school, which is very strong, and I think that comes across, is really about engaging in something that's larger than any individual person, that we're connecting to something larger than ourselves. And I think a really important feature of that connection is that it's about the process. So St. Andrews, for all of us, I think, who've been part of the school, St. Andrews really encourages us to master the process of learning, the process of inquiry, the process of engaging with others, the process of hearing others. And we're less focused on the outcome. We're less focused on the ends, and we're much more focused on the means, because the truth is that in the real world and in life, you can control your process. You can control how you work and how you address issues and how you think and break down questions and answer them and work in teams. It's very hard to control what happens with all of that. We just invest in that process and invest in our own personal growth and development and that questioning process, and let the ends kind of take care of themselves.
Thank you. Joy, this is another sort of series of questions for you that has to do with how your past professional experiences, specifically speaking about your time at Yale, your time as a faculty member here at St. Andrews, and your experience originally early in your career at the National Partnership for Women and Families may impact your positions, and what things that you've learned you'll bring here in this opportunity that you have in front of you at this moment.
Thank you. I think, of course, all of those experiences are really, really important. And I've had wonderful mentors at every stage of my professional life. And I've been really fortunate to be able to pursue opportunities that were always really about the person I was going to be learning from and working with, and much less about what the role was that I was being hired for. And so, my whole professional life has really been a learning experience. One of the reasons that I'm so excited to be coming back to St. Andrews is just to get back closer to the students. Of course, my experience at Yale, Yale is a $4 billion a year educational research and education enterprise. We have relationships and work all around the globe. I've learned so much working at that scope and that scale. But I'm very excited to be back at St. Andrews at the scale where we're actually doing what I think is the most important work, which is working together with students day in and day out, in person and in proximity to each other. I think that's the thing I'm most looking forward to. I was fortunate in working my last stint at St. Andrews. I was on the faculty for almost 8 years, and I was able to teach English. I lived in Schmalzi dorm, which is a 10th grade, 4th form boys dorm, for 7 years. And I wouldn't trade those experiences for the world. And they actually, those experiences, being in the classroom and being in residential life, have informed almost every single day and every single decision that I've made in my professional life since then. So.
Great. A quick question about this that's maybe taking a little bit of a different turn, that has to do with perhaps your favorite traditions. Number one, about St. Andrews, and perhaps, I don't know if you can choose this given the amount of tenure that you both have here, but the most fun thing you've done in all your time at St. Andrews. That's a big, tall order. We'll see if you can fill it.
Yeah, there's so many, right? And of course, when you're coming to the end of your career, you realize these moments are really important in ways that you never realized. So I would say, I'll just give you three really quick moments of my career at St. Andrews. One is what I'm having right now, which is just teaching the students of the school. I mentioned it earlier. I love to teach. I happen to teach literature. I happen to teach literature that I think is really significant about the meaning of life. And so the ability for me to introduce, a book like Middlemarch, or a book like Anna Karenina, or a book like Sing Unburied Sing, is, to me, it's just a gigantic privilege. So I think the classroom itself, and being in a classroom with 14 students who care deeply about these ideas and listen to one another and honor the works of art that we're studying, it's a gigantic privilege for me. So that's probably number one. I was very lucky. I coached at St. Andrews for many years. I was really lucky to coach a state championship soccer team in 1981. It was a championship that came out of nowhere. The school was not considered to be competitive that year, and we just had this magical season that culminated in a overtime victory at a stadium in the middle of Wilmington. That was just fantastic, and I'm still very, very close to all of those students. And then the last one, which is one of my favorite rituals, is graduation. And graduation at St. Andrews is, as Joy said, it's this recognition that we know these students really, really well. And as they come up to receive a diploma from me, I have this moment where I actually realize that the experience of the school has been really significant and powerful and emotional, both for the students and for me. So I think graduation has become, a really, really special time. And we didn't have it last year in person. So we're really looking forward to trying to do it this year. But those are just a couple of thoughts on a really good question.
It's a great question. I'm very challenged by this question to choose or narrow down the options. I will say, my happiest memories of St. Andrews are actually from when I was a faculty member on dorm, and just after study hall and before the rituals of brushing our teeth and going to bed, just having brownies and cookies and nachos and teaching students to scramble eggs and make quesadillas in my kitchen, and just all the things that we discussed in those moments were really, I think, important and powerful moments over the years that really are what St. Andrews is all about, is just the collection of those small moments and those small times. I do, for major traditions, I do love our service of lessons and carols every year at Christmas. Probably my least favorite edition of Lessons and Carols was the year when the fire alarm went off during Lessons and Carols, and it turned out someone on my corridor had burned a bag of popcorn in the microwave. But except for that tiny little blip, it's a wonderful tradition and a wonderful time for the community to gather before the winter recess that I think we all love.
Great, thank you. So we're sitting at about 8:15, and we also want to be mindful of people's schedules and times. We are going to ask a few more questions and answer a few more questions, excuse me. But certainly if people have to depart, again, as I mentioned at the beginning, this is being recorded. And we certainly, if we are not able to answer a question and we have a sense of who's asking it, we're happy to follow up with you individually afterwards. I'd say probably the next question that I would ask is related to social media and technology at St. Andrews. I've gotten a couple of questions here in terms of thinking about, number one, how we prepare students to enter a world that is so digitally connected, but also thinking about that within the context of evidence around negative developmental consequences around social media for teens. And so I'm hoping that perhaps we might speak about that for a moment or two.
Yeah, I'll just say one or two things and then have Joy talk about this. It's such a fascinating question. Our St. Andrews's approach, historically has been we're a human community, and we work really hard to bring students from all across the country and the world to a human community designed to to communicate with each other and to have conversations and to learn and to develop friendships and to have great artistic and athletic and community service activities. So, the St. Andrews at its best is a place where cell phones are in the bedroom and are used to say goodnight to parents at the end of the day. And they are not a lifeline to a world that can distract us. And in some cases can isolate us, and in some cases can humiliate us, in some cases can bully us. I mean, it's really not a beautiful sight to talk about the effect of social media or cell phone technology on education. And so St. Andrews, has really worked very, very hard, certainly to honor all the different ways that technology can add to the learning process, but definitely not bought in as a school to a place which wants to have students walking around on campus talking to anyone on the phone. So you don't see students or faculty members walking around a 2,200-acre campus with extraordinary human beings sitting on their phones, texting. We speak to one another. We play on the lawn. We do really old-fashioned things like throw frisbees and throw footballs and play spike ball and occasionally jump in the pond. I mean, there's a variety of different things that we do that I think are really, really educationally important, and that are going to become even more important as we emerge out of this pandemic, because goodness knows you've had enough of that feeling, the screen feeling, right? So that's how we've tried to design. And I think I think the research now indicates pretty powerfully that the way we've tried to approach the technology question has been really, really responsible, and I think has played a major role in the kind of culture that we celebrate here.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Tad, and completely agree that one of the great things about St. Andrews is whenever you drive on campus, you see teenagers sitting around talking to each other, which is just an incredible thing, and you just don't see that everywhere. And that's really, really important to me. I think our interactions as humans are becoming increasingly impoverished by technological mediation. And even though we've all been thrown into a world where for the last year, we've had to rely on technology to speak to each other at all, I think it's absolutely right that we need to think critically and carefully about how we emerge from this time and how we all help each other to engage interpersonally again. We're all going to have to learn how to be in community in person together again, and have conversations and debates and agreements and disagreements with each other, and find and reinstill those skills and relearn those skills for ourselves and for our students. And I think that's going to be a very, very important effort over the next few years.
Great, thank you. Another question actually is coming up in terms of thinking about, this actually was for you, Tad, and thinking about your nearly 24 years as head of school, what have been the most defining moments for you as a leader, and in what areas has the school evolved the most during your tenure?
Wow. Yeah, such a beautiful question. So I think a number of things have happened. Obviously the world happened, the changes happened, And so to a great degree, my educational philosophy has been that education at its best should be in many ways a response to the kind of world that is happening around us. So, there's been some, there's just been some incredibly challenging aspects of leadership over the last 24 years. And they range from, really tragic and cataclysmic events like 9/11 to school shootings to um, our reckonings with racial injustice and intolerance this summer, and then obviously the pain and trauma of a pandemic. So I think what's happened at St. Andrews is the sense of responsibility for the school and the sense of responsibility for the work of diversity and inclusion, and the sense of responsibility that we've developed in a small way. And I think Joy's going to expand it in a really powerful way in our environmental stewardship process, have all been really, really important. And then a deepening of the faculty and the faculty expertise, I think, has been really powerful and important. I think there's been so many, defining moments in my career, as I had probably one of those defining moments was when the school went to a Black Lives Matter march in 2005, right at the beginning of this awakening to the continued suffering that Black Americans were facing in the country. And it was just one of those moments where the school itself, came together in a really powerful and significant, peaceful march for racial justice. And it was one of those moments where, as I was walking along with all of our students, I was just really, really proud of the courage that our students showed. And then we came back and had an incredible, school meeting afterwards. So those are the kinds of, defining moments that that happen at St. Andrews as we continue to, to resonate with the history that's going on around us.
There was another question that asked a little bit about the fact that both Joy and Tad, you got your start as English teachers,
Mm-hmm.
and that for each of you, wondering how that background might influence your approach in leading St. Andrews.
That's a good one for Joy.
That's a great question. I think for me, there's so much truth in fiction. And I guess, books inspire us to think about the world in new ways and improbable ways, and ask us to look at ourselves very closely and carefully and the people around us. And of course, we see ourselves in characters and we see the people around us in characters. And I think in general, also, the assumption that words matter and that words carry great meaning and many, many valences is an important realization. And for me, in my leadership, has been really important. And I think, also as a leader, I think, I'm not sure, I think it was Tom Clancy who said that the difference between fiction and real life is that fiction has to make sense. And so I do think that's very true. And sometimes when we're sorting through the complexities of a situation, the situation we're in resonates with a through line from literature that suddenly makes everything very clear and helps us see very clearly what we should do or who we should speak to or what we should think of next. And I think that's always been really helpful for me.
Great. Thank you. Tad, did you have anything you wanted to add very briefly?
No, that was so beautifully said. I think, one of the beautiful things about the St. Andrews headship is just it is a position which allows one to write and to read deeply in, not only education, but history and religion and science and then, and then occasionally literature, which, as Joy points out, just brings this really interesting perspective on the world. So I think this notion of being a school that values reading, writing, research, problem solving, and and analysis is it's a really beautiful thing. And I think for for those of us who teach English or who are literary people, I think the power of the written word can inspire a community, and the power of some of our greatest writers really does move us in powerful spiritual, emotional, and intellectual ways.
Well, we are coming up on the hour mark, so I wanted to give Joy and Tad just a moment, if you have any closing words or thoughts or advice for our accepted students and families who are on with us, just to give you the opportunity to share a few parting words.
I would just say thank you to all of you for being here. I hope that if you have questions for me, you received my email over the weekend, and I'm happy to hear from you by email. I will answer if you write to me, and I'm really excited to engage with you. And I very much hope that you'll choose to spend your next 4 or 3 or 2 years with us at St. Andrews. I would love to meet all of you in person and live with you here on our campus and experience with you the incredible joys of a St. Andrews education.
Yeah, and I would just add just my own congratulations to all of you for all of the work that you've done. I, like Joy, was so inspired by reading your essays, by your commitment to community service, by your kindness and generosity to little brothers and little sisters and pets and all members of your families. You talk beautifully about elders in your family. So you're already doing really powerful work. And as I wrote to you, and I still have a number of you to write to, I kept saying that you really deserve a transformational high school experience. You really deserve something different. You really deserve something that's going to bring out this spirit, this generosity, and this love that you and your families already embody. And St. Andrews is a place which is making the case that high school does not have to be what many people associate with the American high school experience. High school can actually be the most important, the most joyous, and the most educational 4 years of your life. It doesn't have to be a preparation. It doesn't have to be tedious or exhausting. It can actually be generative for you. So we see greatness in you. Obviously, our admissions office saw it in really powerful ways, and that's why you're all with us tonight. So congratulations, best wishes to your family, good health to all. And as Joy said, she and I are always available for email conversations, anything else you need.
Great, thank you. So I will just close by echoing Tad and Joy. All of us in the admission office have had the privilege of getting a sense of who each and every one of you as students and as individuals may be. And with a record number of applications this year, it was arduous. It was a hard, deliberations were challenging because there were incredible young people. And so again, I want to congratulate each and every one of you, because we really believe that you have the ability to impact our community and to be impacted by it. And so we're very excited at the prospect of you joining us. For me, in the role in which I sit, the ability to think about who may be joining us next year and to be able to look out collectively and see what an incredible group of young people you are is really exciting. I know that everyone in the admission office joins me in saying that I hope that you will continue to be in touch as you all are deliberating and making your decisions. You should have heard from your interviewer. Please reach out to us with any questions, big or small. We're happy to speak with you or to connect you with other members of the community who can be helpful, whether that's a faculty member, whether that's a member of our residential staff, whether that's someone who organizes weekend activities here at St. Andrews, one of our students, a particular member of a team, a coach, the head of our drama program. everyone here at St. Andrews is excited to speak with you and to talk to you about what possibilities could look like for you as a student here, and certainly also happy to answer parents' questions about what that role and transition looks like for all of you. Again, there are many, many resources that are out there. We are excited to be able to share more information with some of the upcoming events that we have scheduled. We are recording this. The recording will be made available, and we'll be sending out a schedule and a reminder of those events. We hope that you will take part in them. You all are an incredible group of people, and we're excited for you to meet each other. And so we just thank you so much and look forward to being in touch and hearing great things. Have a wonderful evening, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night, everyone.